was something that Sun said about halos and the sun. Moon. What's his name? Sun.
Yes, okay. That's good.
Right. Have you ever seen the Egyptian moon god? Nothing. I don't know how you say it.
There's a sun god called Ra, and the moon god that got they're called Nut, right? That's called Nut, and that was just the sky moon goddess, and that's where most of the people get grafted from moon. The women came from the moon, and they always say the men came from the Orion.
Magic. Yeah, don't need the magic history. So, have you ever seen a statue of an Egyptian god with like a half moon on its head? Or sometimes it looks like cow's horns.
I don't think most Egyptians use half moon. Yeah, I've never seen it. If you have a picture of it, maybe you could put it up in PTR.
I can't put a picture of it.
Yeah, I can't find what they're saying.
I'll put a link in there.
That's cool.
But anyway, that's where the halo comes from.
Halos? You mean the round halos, the sun halos?
Yeah, the thing on somebody's head.
It has to come from the sun. That was the sun Ra, and that was actually Horus. No moon. The moon has its own kind of patterns. You could call it the zodiac or dendrite sign, right? And that was actually has to be a goddess of the moon, which is called Nut. And most of the time it could be half moon or full moon. That's what the Greek described. But based on the Kemethians, they always draw the full moon anyway, because they always description to the goddess of the moon. But if you have a picture, that would be great on the links. Oh, good.
I got Megatron's PTR.
Whoa. Okay, that makes sense. So what evidence is there that that's what the halo behind Jesus' head is?
Halo behind Jesus' head is the sun, and you always see like they're painted yellow, and most of the time we touch his heart as well, which is the inner sun. That was our soul. That was our sun, small sun in our heart. That's our soul. And the halo is the bigger sun, and they believe that was the sun that gave life to humans and God and nature. And based on some people that we actually use sun to make a lot of life, like living, cooking, dry foods, cook food, raw food, and stuff like that. All the natural stuff that we know.
Right. Have you ever seen something called zeitgeist?
Yes.
Zeitgeist.
LSF, look at my PTR. That's called the Isis tablet. It's one of the most famous Egyptian hieroglyphic pieces of art. It's a 5x3 copper plate that even Roman emperors used to own, and it's translatable. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah.
But it's mystical. The Jews took the magic of the Egyptians and brought it with them to Babylon. Then they took Cyrus's magic and brought it back to the promised land.
Jesus came and
Go on, right hand corner. In fact, there's a
Alice, Pharaoh's books, right? Is it a scroll or picture?
The PTR is, it's called the Isis, or it's called the Isiaq tablet, and it's a 5x3 copper plate with gold and silver and enamel, and it's a hieroglyphic pictogram of it's hard to describe. There's poetry involved in it because it's fully translatable.
I think Mr. Sun has PTR, so if you'll pull down on your screen to refresh, Alistair Crowley's picture has changed, and that's the picture he's referring to.
Yeah, I think it was actually going on that. That looked like some, I get what you're saying. Yeah, you have them in the temple of the Dandara. You will see most of all those, that's where they took some of those pictures from, and it was based on ritual. and it was based on their normal ways of doing things as well, of paying homage to their goddess and goddesses. But they do worship sun, and they do worship sun. They admire sun, right? And that was Tutankhamun was actually the one that came to one god after, because he decided to go on one god as the sun Ra, and he called himself Hamun Ra as well came before that. They always put Ra. When they put Ra, that just say they just admire sun as one god after. But before it was polytheistic worshipping of other deities and stuff like that. But when he died, the priest decided to go back to the old ways and worshipping many deities after that. But suppose when the Bible came along as well and changed it to one God, and that was they took it away SUN and they put to SON, become the sons of God, or the sons of God after. But it was son before then, and that's actually true. What you say, most of these people were.
It's the same thing with lawsuits. When they say I'm gonna sue you, that's like saying I'm gonna take the sun and put the light of the sun on you. I'm gonna sue you.
Really cute, Alistair Crowley. If I can segue from what Sun is saying and an interpretation from Gemini of Megatron's PTR, it says the diagram provides a visual breakdown of the historical theological shift in ancient history and Judah, specifically tracing how different regional influences and political alliances shaped the transition from polytheism to Yahweh alone monotheism. And then it explains the regional deities and cultural spheres, and that is encompassing what Sun is referring to. The diagram divides Levant into three primary cultural geographical influences. And then you have Egypt, South Egypt, associates Yahweh, Flame, and the, I think it's in that section, people were nomadic tribes of the Median region, reflects the Medianite Canaanite hypothesis, which suggests Yahweh originated in the south, and then it has North Canaan, Syria, highlights the father, the Canaanite capital, and northwest the primary hideout. There's the Phoenician alliance, representing Baal, the husband of the Bible, and the for religious practices. The theological convergence, the arrows moving towards the center, illustrate the process of religious syncretism and exclusivism, which El versus Yahweh. In early Israelite history, it attributes El, the creator or father, and Yahweh, the warrior storm god, began to merge. You can see this as an anti-Egyptian alliance triangle where Yahweh is nestled in El. The conflict with Baal, or the Phoenician alliance triangle, showed Baal versus Yahweh, representing a biblical narrative like those in Elijah, where Yahweh's followers fought to displace Baal's worship. And then the Josiah reform, at the top of the diagram, Josiah, the king of Judah, late 7th century BCE, this represents a pivotal turning point in biblical history, Yahweh alone. Josiah's reform, following the discovery of the Book of the Law, mandates the worship of Yahweh exclusively, centralized all worship in Jerusalem. And then the absorption of El. Note the small L triangle being submerged by the large Yahweh triangle. By this stage, El's titles and functions were fully attributed to Yahweh. And then the final point is the geopolitical pressures. So the large arrow on the periphery represents the empires that squeeze these smaller kingdoms, forcing the alliance mentioned in the center, the Egyptian and the Phoenician, influencing both south and west, Assyrian and Babylon. The lost 10 tribe triangles indicates the Assyrian conquest of northern kingdom Israel in 722 BCE, which effectively ended northern El dominance that pushed refugees and their traditions south into Judah. Okay, hopefully that gives some light clarification to his PTR and how that is in a time where there was a lot of pagan, well, I call it pagan, but like sun gods and a whole bunch of other gods.
Yeah, and
What we understand to be God.
Stop talking. Yahweh was one of those. Just another one of those pagan gods.
Tell us that.
Enli become Yahweh and Enki become Baal, and Anu becomes one of their top gods. I don't know what they call him anything, but they believe he's the force. But that was when he took over and killed Alelu and sent Alelu out of the planet to go and die somewhere else. So Alelu was actually the first, and he was actually the god of the Pumapunku. He built Pumapunku, but Enli destroyed it, because Enli has been known as a destroyer, as a Yahweh. He's the one that bring the flood as well in the Bible.
Yes.
And he's the one that order to destroy.
Therefore, showing that Yahweh, being the ultimate creator, had commanded Moses to, through a burning bush, a series of what I would call historically known as the 10 Commandments, showing that there shall be no placement of worshiping gods or goddesses above him, and that he is ultimately not only the creator of life, the only God that should be worshipped, and that even pagan idols of things that are like deities are considered breaking a commandment of the top 10 things of like like don't kill, honor your mom and dad, don't worship a bunch of gods. But that's just my belief. Sorry, Metron.
Yeah, really important stuff. Don't murder, don't kill.
Sorry, Elisa. That's what I believe.
You're stupid.
Very interesting, Kitty. I think you're very interested in right, and that was actually kind of a half-breed.
Stop that shit, man. Who don't kiss the bus drivers off?
Thank you.
That was crazy. He came and suplexed him so fucking fast.
As a whisperers and
How come?
harvestry.
How
So
come?
it's just some characteristics of somebody that.
Stop that shit, man.
Damn! But when you go to the Kemetic, yes, they call the snakes
Fucking
which is taught. So
lawsuit
it's very
check.
interesting how they flip everything around to all those
Fucking
people
murder
that are
lawsuit check.
disagreeable one. I'll leave it there.
I can't. The Bible's polemical, so it's an attack on pagan gods. It's an attack on
John.
So, like the plagues of Egypt, those are all showing that Yahweh dominates their so-called pagan gods and that their gods are false. Up into including Pharaoh, who's looked at as a
Go
god.
right in.
Yahweh had power over him.
When you can't post up.
Did he?
Got it right in when you can't post up.
Yeah, because he fucking killed them.
Did he?
Yeah, it was amazing. He sent the
Which one did he kill?
angel of death.
Which one did he kill?
His firstborn.
Which one? What's his name?
I don't know his name.
Well, find it.
I can't even pronounce those sand people names.
It's got to kill him. It must have
Yeah.
Two moving salsa Chicago.
names.
Wait, what's the question?
You're talking about the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Jebusites, the Hittites.
God,
We moved to the south side of Chicago.
did not kill?
Egyptian
Why did
king
the Bible-
was killed.
What's his name?
I don't know, Alice. If you want to know, it wanted to give to.
written in the Bible.
Thanks, Kat.
Oh, have a look, shall I? See, as none of the Christians could be fucking bothered.
It's
not important to the Lord stuff, it's just
the
Bible.
name of the Pharaoh.
Yeah, Pharaoh, that one. There is no name of the pharaohs. He didn't even kill the pharaoh he killed his
his firstborn son, but we don't have the names of those pharaohs. They never like named them out.
Yeah, that's
We
important.
have a God that just whacked them. Got it? And that, like, we have a bunch of kings that we talk about that he put in part of these 12 tribes of Judah.
He never
And
killed
we have, yeah, he didn't kill them, no. But they made mistakes too. Let's not negate that fact. And I think that was also,
Like,
yeah.
I'm saying, like, he never killed the pharaoh, he never killed the pharaoh king. I mean, like, he killed his. I mean,
Well, she's walking through the clouds.
yeah.
The pharaoh's name.
So they do face discrimination. What's up? But it's more like,
You're not gonna find a name. Is what I'm saying. You're not gonna find a name for anything.
Yeah, there is no
Why are you deliberately not in there?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because
Yeah,
they
please.
found it unimportant. Like okay, it's like this, right? It's like they don't need because the person that's writing this is assuming that the audience that they're writing to understands and knows this story. Like they have some sort of precondition of it. If you just read kind of like how they're even writing it, what they're saying is that obviously the book is not written to you. It's written to people in that time who understood these events, who probably passed it down orally before it even got written. So you have to understand, like, they kind of probably already knew what pharaoh they were talking about. He also mentions these places particularly that you can kind of get an idea of when, like, he gives some particular historical ideas like mud and brick. There's a few things mentioned in there, but you know, Egyptologists will constantly debate this about is the Exodus story even true? Yada yada. I could argue that probably you can actually make a very structured historical argument actually that if you actually structure it through a line of different pharaohs and you keep the idea right in your head that this is not the same pharaoh when Moses comes back. It even mentions that. So there's several pharaohs in this narrative. It's not just one pharaoh that you're dealing with. Right? So that's the other problem that a lot of people run into is they're not paying attention to like the Egyptian history of why it happens. And I also see like a lot of people try to like I've dug into this quite a bit, but I'm just saying like you're not gonna see them writing the names because they felt no need to do so. It's not like they're trying to glorify the name of this pharaoh. What they need to do is make the pharaoh anonymous in the sense because it doesn't give them any glory because that's what every pharaoh did. Like look
Joshua.
down the history. Type it in right now. Did every pharaoh write down their accomplishments, or did they write down their defeats?
Yes,
they never wrote down any of their defeats, and they never wrote down any issues that they ever had. They always held themselves in high esteem. They always had to have their name on everything. Like that's how pharaohs operated in the ancient world. So if they were defeated in an army, you think they're honestly going to write about it? No, absolutely not. Pharaohs were seen as deities. Like they were seen as literal gods.
Exactly, but that's logical.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is
To write down the pharaohs that.
most people are not
Yeah.
going to
Can you
rap?
I can rap, actually. Are you an artist?
Yeah, I am.
What's your artist name?
Shannon Blake.
Can you freestyle?
Yeah, I can freestyle.
The last person to freestyle about 100 million views, you think you can beat it?
I mean, I would rather it mean something than mean something.
My shit, now I'm being honest, you're a suck, keep it so you don't fit in my new reality. Turns out I'm a queen, actually, so you better take the knee or I'll go GOT and I'll say Ducati's and let my jacket bleed. This that feel protected, and your keys told me my feelings, so turn and I understand that you told me I got the same. Just like the stars and skies, and my guys, I gotta live this, so unbreakable.
Can you rap?
I can rap, actually.
Are you an artist?
Yeah, I am.
What's your artist name?
Shannon Blake.
Can you freestyle?
Yeah, I can freestyle.
The last person to freestyle about 100 million views, you think you can beat it?
I mean, I would rather.
Everything. But she was seen as a living god because she even set up an altar to a particular goddess that she emphasized and made herself look like. Her name was, I think was it?
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Can you rap?
I can rap, actually.
Are you an artist?
Yeah, I am. Shannon Blake.
Was it Moot? I don't know. Maybe it was Moot. Let's say, right, that the plague of Egypt, let's say gonna say that shit. He's not gonna tell you that shit. Why would he tell you that? He's supposed to have a glorious legacy, greater than all the other pharaohs. Every pharaoh wanted to outdo the other one. Like, you gotta just look at that and then think about it from that perspective. But then there's like, you can make the arguments, like, just from historical analysis that, well, yeah, we don't have any complete evidence that, but maybe like all the evidence of Egypt, all the evidence of the ancient world is constantly nothing but educated opinions. You have people who think, well, maybe this is how it went, maybe this is how it went. Why do you think they're still debating how the pyramids are built? I mean, it's like, we don't really have any absolute certainty.
So we're saying then is that people's biases are heavily present.
I think there's a lot of biases, but it's also, like, keep in mind, right? You can just go with the facts. Like, you can say, what I would say is this, right? I'm not saying you can definitively prove the Exodus. What I'm saying is that if you look at it from a different perspective, I think you could at least point to an historical path that could lead you to at least the paradigm for what the Exodus may have been built off of. If you just pay attention to how the history of the pharaohs was and what particular events occurred throughout the history, then you probably, like, some people even look at Exodus stories like a culmination event of, like, they probably look at it like symbolically, like it's a culmination of multiple different pharaohs over the eras, and then, Moses being like a conglomerate figure of many Israelite leaders in the early time, and then kind of becoming like this figure in the overall narrative of leading Israel against Egypt's gods. You know what I mean? Like, so some people look at it that like a symbolic sort of story, but it's using these emphasis of characters that are just culminations of different people, one person. Does that make sense? There's some people who look at it that way. There's some people who look at it literally, like, they say, well, this whole story did actually happen, which, I mean, that's going to be difficult to prove with certainty. What I'm saying is to dismiss it entirely.
I can prove it.
To dismiss it entirely.
Because it isn't really written.
I'm not saying. Well, I mean, I think it would be difficult to prove with certainty. There's a lot of Egyptologists that would probably disagree and say, well, nah, you can't say it.
Tenet, isn't the history irrelevant, because isn't the analogies and the symbols important to us personally for our personal development or enjoyment? I mean, who cares?
Historical claims aren't going to be certain, but because they're provisional. But when it comes to the Bible, we can be certain it's true because it's God's word.
Oh yeah, of course you
The
can.
point isn't to be for the people at that time. I mean, these are things that are meant to be passed down. I mean,
I don't think they were not meant to be passed down. Is what I'm saying, though, is that there is some sort of understanding. Like, there's certain texts even throughout the Torah, right? Like, that people are not going to really get, like, straight up. It doesn't explain some of things, right? I can point out a few of them. The text doesn't really tell you what it is, because it's going to assume that some of the readers may already have an idea of what that is.
I think
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's even moments in the
It's based on archaeological sites as well. If you check my picture, there's a girl called Joanna James. This girl, she go to Egypt and she actually show you videos of what they're doing there. They find there's so many stuff in there. They find
it was moved. I was correct.
But that's just
So
that's just how we communicate.
You still try to make yourself look like moved. Oh, yeah, it's like that.
Anytime we communicate, there's like hidden assumptions. We never communicate without hidden assumptions. So
Yeah, and I think that it assumes a certain
Right, so
interpretation.
normality then. Yeah. What's your point?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that because I believe in the Exodus narrative. I believe it did actually occur. But the way I'd probably go about explaining that, I wouldn't say I could 100% clearly show it without a doubt that it's there.
you can.
You have a few. Well, I mean, how do you take the years then? Like, do you take, like, if you were to construct a timeline, have you ever tried to construct the timeline to the Exodus?
Yeah, that doesn't prove it. Can't prove it.
Like, how do you, like, because you're going to have a few issues that you might run into. Unless, of course, right, you have to change the dates, right, you have to assume that the dating is flawed for at least 4 or 5 pharaohs. You have to push them back a little bit. You also have to understand, right, if you were to actually make this work historically.
Archaeology and historians catch up to the Bible. Like,
Right, but what I'm saying is that if,
Right, well, this is
absolutely historically, like ask yourself this question, right? When the baby, right, when Moses was found, right, when Moses was brought to this river, and Pharaoh's daughter saw him, what about the Pharaoh's daughter in the text? Like, do you think, like, have you ever looked at it and just examined that text for a bit?
Yeah, females, what do they say?
Well, the thing is, the Pharaoh's daughter,
Fucking read it.
the Pharaoh's daughter doesn't seem.
The
Doesn't seem
timeline of the Moses and the Pharaoh that actually fought him wasn't aligning properly because it wasn't mentioned as a real name of the Pharaoh either. They just call him what they call him again. I forgot his name. You probably know anyway. But based on the histories of the Egyptians, right, they have three Moses: Moses, Thutmose, and Akmos. And those are the grandchildren and the fathers as well. So the Moses that came after that, it was in the Bible, was actually known as a Hyksos, right? It was actually known as a Hyksos, which he came as somebody that took their knowledge and he became Egyptian as well, because they describe him as one of them. Then when it comes to like the disagreeable time, the Shasu, that's where the Christian came from. So he became the Shatsu. And the Shatsus are those ones that are not it. They just use some of the east side of the Egypt as one of their own. So, and the Pharaoh at that time decided that they need to leave. And they decided to actually leave by actually taking some stuff with them as well from Egypt. So that's when the Moses of the Bible came from. That's just where all my research is all about. So there's other Moses that interpret, that has other definitions as well, that was kicked out for another 42 days exile. And I think some of those stories was conflated with the new Moses that we have today. That's just my research. I'm not confirming it's fact or not, but that's just me.
No, you can definitely see an Egyptian remnant in his name for sure. Moses means born of. I think they might have called him. It comes from another.
He took the Ark of. Do you know about he took the Ark of Covenant? Do you know about he took the Ark of Covenant out of Egypt?
No, don't care about it either. Right, so you've got everything from Ramesses the Second.
Right.
Is it the second or the first?
Yeah,
The second, which would be anywhere from 1279 to hang on, which one's the latest one? Amenhotep, which is 4,500. So you've got like a 200-year wide timeline. So which one is it, Primars? Primars has got the answers.
Well, but you gotta look at.
Hang on, Primars. Hang on, let's Primars answer this question because he's the one who said he knows. Primars.
Can someone what do you say?
Who was the Pharaoh when the Exodus happened?
I don't know.
Well, find out. You said you know. Oh yeah, it definitely happened. I know it happened. I can prove it happened. Well, in that case, do that.
I said it happened with certainty.
Yeah, how do you know that?
Because it's in the Bible. The Bible's.
The Bible's true, right? So your answer to everything is because the Bible's true.
Yeah.
Right, that's okay. So there's no point in trying to have a discussion with you because your answer to everything is because of the Bible. Because of the Bible.
Your answer to everything is a needle in your arm.
Whatever you think, B-Mars.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I've constructed a timeline actually. I'm gonna try to bring my PTR so you can see. This is something I've actually done some research on. But okay, so I propose there's a possibility. Okay, this is gonna go with a big theory here. Okay, but this isn't. Like, keep in mind, I'm not saying this 100% certain, but this is the theory. Okay, so Moses would have been born around like the 15 something BC, or maybe around like 1526 BC, maybe around there, or maybe a bit earlier. I'm still debating on what that is exactly because I mean we have to look at the years of his life. It says that Moses lived about 120 years, so he was sent out for like around 40 years, and then around 80 he comes back. Apparently, if you're going to take the years literally, like you're going to take that literally. So the pharaohs that would have been in alignment with when Moses was born, like when he was a baby, the pharaoh that most likely would have been in his time frame when he was born was Amos the first.
I don't know, I kind of count his way backwards.
Yeah, so you know how type in Amos. Ahmose.
Amenhotep. Amenhotep.
Amos is before him. Before him, there's Amenhotep first, and then there's Amos.
Yeah, that was a father of Thutmose. So these are the granddad Friday. So those are
Yeah,
the
this is
first.
their great grandfather. So what I'm saying is, if you follow the line, right, you're gonna have
But how do you
Imhotep.
put in a date? How do you put in a date on the Exodus?
Well, I'm putting a. How am I putting? Like, what do you mean? Like, which date?
A date. How do you have a date for the Exodus?
Well,
When the Exodus
there's a lot of reasons for that, but I have to get into it. Okay, so let me go up here so I can give you some of the notes that are why I say what I'm saying here. Okay.
Some extra biblical source for an Exodus. Is there any?
Is there any extra biblical source for an Exodus? No.
Yeah.
No.
All right. So the only thing we've got is the Bible.
Yes. Correct.
Right. And the only thing from the Bible that exists that tells us about the Exodus is at the most 100 years before Jesus was born. Maybe 200.
That's definitely, yes, probably way before that. Maybe a little bit more than that.
Well, what's the oldest existent book that tells us about the Exodus?
Well,
There's no book for that. Yeah, some scroll or papyrus, not even Torah either.
If it's written on a toilet wall, it's shit. It's going out where it is, how old it is.
There's nobody have original. It's some clay cuneiform. Cuneiform has been broken. Even Moses broke the Ten Commandments, so there's no original Ten Commandments either.
the oldest copies we have was a copy around 100 BC. 100 BC.
That's what I just said.
Right, and so that's the oldest
And
copy.
the Exodus happened somewhere around 1500 BC. So we've got approximately 1300 years of time to account for between the recording of this event and it happening. And we've got
The first Pharaoh.
outside of that document that says it happened. Nothing.
Never find it. Now they're still digging to find a few.
We have a lot of documents from that time.
Nobody have nothing. And if you have it, it won't be complete either. You just have a little pieces of stuff somewhere they try to mesh together.
Well,
But the
Moses
first
may have lived around 13 to 1500 years before Jesus. So,
yeah, possibly.
yeah, possibly. If you believe that he existed, right? That's implying that we actually are saying that he existed. Well, what I'm saying is that if we're going to take this into consideration that he did exist and the story is true, how would we align that to history, right? Let's just say it was, for the sake of this discussion. You don't have to believe it. I'm not asking you to. But I'm saying, just for the sake of this discussion, just entertain the idea. Well, how would we form a timeline of his life and what would have occurred? I would propose he was not called Moses at all. His name was never Moses in Egypt. He never went by that name.
There's so many names that describe similar activities of the same guy. But all I do know is definitely there are stories of his cause that fights of the king of that time, and that was when Moses come along. So he was like a savior to them, and he wasn't named Moses. It's just descriptions of taking somebody's characters and taking along. That's the way I kind of see it anyway, because that's what I'm Moses.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's some people who hold that view as well, who would say that the story is a culmination of different figures.
So this is getting worse by the minute.
But if you're going to take it literally, right, we're going to take it like 100%. There was a one man called Moses. Well, we have to propose that you have to believe that he lived to be 120 years old. That's what it says in the text, right? So he lived to be 120. Okay, that's the first thing we got to accept.
It wouldn't surprise me if he sprouts wings and flies in a minute.
Oh man.
Possibly. The river they cross, I don't think is the right, I think it's a small river. And for instance, 42 days in the desert, that's not really making sense because
All these, yeah,
where Israel was going, land of Canaan. Those lands. So all the stories, some of them were made up. Just the storybooks, and we had that when I was in school and I was younger.
I think it's interesting that there's a plausibility. I think that it's possible. I'm not saying it is the truth, but it's possible. I think that if we were to point to a figure, I think in history that could be the historical Moses.
Dude, can you get a bit closer to your mic? I can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Just a bit better.
Is it better?
Responsibility.
I said if we were to propose, I think.
And do you check the oldest names of it?
Sinenmut. I think that he might be a candidate for being the historical Moses. I've heard a lot of the arguments that actually Egyptologists give for why he can't be, and I don't think they're very strong at all. I have not been compelled to think so. I went through it with them a few times, and I've seen a few videos on it, why people say it's not the case. There's one particular Egyptologist who said it, and I thought all his arguments were pretty weak on why it can't be the case. Yeah, because he used like even something as simple as like, well, it says Moses was slow of speech. How could he have been this guy being a tutor if he was slow of speech? It doesn't. I don't think that really defines any of it. Like I don't think that. I think he's just stretching that to mean like, oh, Moses is not very well educated. Moses is not this or that, even though you have later texts that confirm that he was educated in all the ways of the Egyptians and the wisdom, et cetera, of the Egyptians. So it's like, I don't know. I just think that was a bad argument from an actual Egyptologist to use. But there's more to it than that.
Settlers was sent to the desert actually for 42 days from Egypt. So that could be the same story that took us 42 years of Moses we know of. But even pre-dynasties of the Egyptians, they have migrations too. They have moved places too. And some of them are Maphite. Those are the first dynasty. And that's when the Khufu came around and the Khafre. They came in the 5th dynasty. And the Khufu's son came in the 6th dynasty. He's the one that discovered Sphinx as well. And they say Khufu himself is the one that built pyramids. I don't really 100% confirm that yet. Just because they find his name there doesn't mean he built it. Pyramids is known to be nearly about 450,000 years old. Even Sphinx is known to be 450,000 years old. So, but pyramids could be around the timeline, but they're using the water of the Nile or the floods who say that it was around before the flood as well. So, but there's a lot of things going on based on their stories anyway. You never find 100%, but I'm glad of people, archaeology, that go in there and give us information like the picture, my picture right now. The guy actually went down there and doing some digging. Hello there.
Like there's so much. Do you believe that Moses had, access to what could only be God tech, like technology of the gods, like when these celestial beings actually? No, I'm not laughing with you at that. I mean this with all seriousness. Like I see them as celestial beings.
He was a sorcerer. He was involved with sorcery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he was heavily involved.
You're alive, man. But what gets you?
Yes. It's the reason why he was not allowed in the promised land because he was doing magic. Unless you can prove that there's God magic, which I thought it was divine. They're saying, no, God magic. And hi, Kat, I heard Nate called me on my personal phone to tell me you were back. But I was busy. I was busy with my family at the time. But I'm so happy to hear your voice.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to hear your voice too.
That's
He was using what was there. He was using what's already there, and actually the snakes and all this magic stuff that you're talking about is already stuff that was already there. It's just the pharaohs wasn't happy with him as well, and some of the council, because he was tapping into the metaphysics of healing and stuff like that. That's when it shows the Hebrew people that when they look up to the snakes and stuff and all that. So it wasn't really, they call it magic or evil spirit, pharaohs are just people that of worshiping them. That's what they've been doing.
African people ruin this app. Change my mind.
Also discrimination or maybe racism if you're gonna come with that bullshit. Then we always tear the roof off open. Yeah, it's coming out dumb right now. I think you're intelligent, but you're coming out stupid.
I mean, it's stupid or not, it is God. It is God.
If you go to 11, can you give this to the fitters? I forgot to. The fitters that's right on the right there. The guys who know now.
Do you guys know any history about how sheep suit or Senate in their relationship and the types of things his name meant and all that? Do you understand any of that?
I know what they did for this moment.
You guys read anything about it or know about the story of how sheep suit?
Yes, she was actually become one of the top pharaohs after they died. You know, they say you couldn't become a pharaoh as a woman. That's actually in African culture too, that you can't become a king. But some we seen the movie for the woman king. We saw a lot of stories of these ancient people decided to take a role of the man when he died. We've seen Titi take a role when Kitover died, but after then it was just for them to with our chefs.
After the death of her husband, yeah.
She take a role. So,
right.
So this is the same thing. When a woman take a role, some people will discredit them just because they think they can empower them. Mostly the priests or the priesthood always do divinations to decide who should be the next king or who should be on the next throne. But most of the time, the woman could have the power to still say she wants to rule. So Hatshepsut was powerful women. Discredited after she died. They took all her image and scratched all her figurines out.
Right.
When the next
I don't think that's why because she was a woman, they did it. Like, I don't think
that powerful. She was taking a role. She's powerful. She's so brutal, and she's a fighter.
More to it than that. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, read your scroll and read something for us about her. I've just told you what I know.
I'm trying to make a point here, okay? So after the death of her husband, right? So she takes on the co-regent role because her son Tutmos III is too young to rule, right? So she's this great royal wife, and then she's acting as this co-regent, so she's ruling on his behalf. And she did this for around like 20 years, they say. So on year 7 of her co-regency, Hatshepsut took on all these full pharaonic titles. You know, she wore the false beard. You would look at depictions of her. She has the Nevis headdress, and she has calls herself the Montkar, or aka that's like her throne name. And she often bestows herself in a fashion that's similar to the goddess Mut. And if you know anything about Mut and its connection to the Nile, and there's something very interesting about Mut's story is that Mut is known to be almost adoptive in her mythology. She adopted sons. She's like an adopted mother. And the interesting part is that Senenmut, her tutor, his name means like son of Mut, or like child of Mut. And so the interesting part is she has all these depictions of Mut. She has this man that's not royalty, but close to her, teaching her children, teaching her closest daughter. And then this guy is like, she's setting up this temple back to Mut as well. She builds this temple to Mut. And she's worshiping this goddess, and she's also, I think, claiming to be the incarnation of this goddess. She's taking on the form of this goddess. Like when you look at her hieroglyphics, look at her, the way she was depicted in the hieroglyphs, she's taking on the very depiction of Mut. And so I believe she had a very close sort of religious association with Mut, because she probably thought of herself as the living incarnation of Mut. And I think that Senenmut is somebody that she adopted. And that's why I think Senenmut was a name given to him by her.
Okay, so when Tutankhamun do the same thing and become a attack him, or did they say that he wasn't qualified? So they're discriminating against her because she's taking over the right role of taking other information. So that's what you do when you become a king or queen. You still exploit. You could take anything. You have the right to. So that's why they took her shit off the wall, because they believe they don't want to rule what she's dictating for them anymore, because she wants to be the powerful goddess. There's always competition in comments. Not all of them is perfect anyway. And they always take the roles of the past king or queen out because they are the new ruler and they have to make a new legislation. And that's where all this politics shit comes from right now that we're doing right now too. All right then.
I hope you get the significance of what I said and why that's kind of important to the whole Exodus narrative type ideology that I'm trying to basically help you understand.
Right. You actually say something that I was going to as well, just to saying that she's a woman, powerful woman, and she's actually going more and changing the way people should believe some. It's like coming out to say, I want to change the dictionary. I would get sued for that shit.
She
That same shit.
Birth. She knows she had a claim to a divine birth.
Every goddess and every kings of the pharaohs or whatever, they always have divine connection to something.
Yeah, but it's like,
So that doesn't make her not become a queen either. What I respect it because you read more for it. It wasn't right. She just was powerful and she's taking new divinations that they know you.
I think there's a huge significance to it because we have an actual person, right? That she's calling Son of Moon, that she's depicting herself as the goddess ruler. Like, I think that's interesting to me.
Hey guys,
That could be something they don't agree with just because they say it's blasphemy. Yeah, but it's in the way the Tutankhamun guy did it. He said he wants to just choose as a son of God, right? And he changed all the gods and goddesses. He carried them and tell the priest he doesn't want to do shit with them no more. And what did they do? They listened to him until he died. But when he died, they went back again to their role. So it wasn't different from what happened to Hatshepsut as well. Right? But they see her as a very brutal, very angry, and very detective person, you know. And that's just what we have most of the time.
Into Egypt that caused it.
Well, we need to go find out what we need to go back and read more.
And his name from every single thing, including his name. Not just her name that was dashed out, it was his name too. His name was removed from everything. It was all carved out. Crossed out. Why was Sennacherib's name crossed out? Why did he disappear?
How do you cross out granite?
But you just like
you can't chisel that shit out.
Yeah,
Try it. Yeah, then why do you think they used granite, my friend? They used granite because you can't chisel it out. So good luck trying to chisel it out unless it's something else. But they didn't even have the means, which is the reason why most people say that they found they inherited.
Deliberately removed from monuments the names of Senemu and Hatshepsut. This is like no fact. You can type this in right now. Any Egyptologist tell you this.
Listen, so you're saying the Egyptians built the pyramids and stuff, and the Serapeum and all that other stuff?
I'm not saying they built the pyramids. No, that's nothing to do with that. I'm talking about just Hatshepsut, this person's name, and this other person's name was removed from all the monuments. There's evidence. The statues were smashed. They're buried, chiseled off temple walls. Yeah, 100%. That's the case. Replace the names with names of pharaohs.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. You probably have reason to believe that.
Sure. This is not just me saying this. It's like you can see this. Like there's evidence of this. It's like this is on the walls. Like
it's very common.
Where did you want to go with this?
I'm saying, like we have, like this is what I mean. It's like I'm trying to give you a layout here. You gotta understand the significance.
You want to get there's nothing else to do anymore. Right. You try already. You explain what happened to why they took that shit off the wall, and that's it. But based on pyramids, the ancient Egyptian built pyramids.
You think the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids?
Yes, it's called subterranean city that was actually in beneath the pyramids, right? And that city is called Tara Shepta Rura. That's what it's called, which is called the city of the solar code. Yeah, one of their oldest ancestors or the granddad of the great Egyptians buried underneath the pyramids. They say the pyramid is not a tomb, but when you dig down, nobody can go further. That is where some of this secret knowledge is. And they have internal flame cities called as well, right? Which they can detect craft shafts, the Vatican shafts in there, and they got something called anchor in there, the transmonic multi-dimensions pillars in there. So all these things is secret knowledge to the chemists and those people that build it, and that's the same thing as the Sphinx as well.
Let me just give you some breakdown here, because I personally don't think you understand the magnitude of what we're talking about here. We're talking about the big one, the Kufa, originally stood 481 feet. Okay? Now we're talking about just that pyramid alone. 2.3 million stone blocks, averaging the block weight 2.5 tons. Some interior blocks, granite, are 25 to 80 tons. The total mass of the pyramid is 6 million tons of stone. We're talking about 2.3 million in the Kufra. The Karfe is 2 million, and the smaller one is 200,000. So 3 main Giza pyramids together contain roughly 4.5 million blocks of stone. So they're saying it took 20 years to build the Great Pyramid alone. 80 to 260, 2500 BCE. Okay. So they're saying 20 years. So 2.3 million blocks in 20 years. That's 115,000 blocks per year. If we break that down, that's 350 blocks a day. They would have to work 10 hours. So it's 31 blocks per hour. That sounds insane at first, but try to remember, thousands of workers work simultaneously. Blocks were pre-quarried and staged. Many blocks were placed at the same time in different sides. So basically, a huge coordination construction site. So archaeologists discover a worker village that shows a permanent workforce of 20,000 workers, rotating seasonal workers during the Nile flood. So they weren't slaves. This is not a Hollywood myth. Worker tombs show that they were paid laborers and craftsmen. The evidence that they actually built it, archaeologists are uncovered strong evidence for construction progress. We have worker cities, we have quarries, we have transportation system that they're saying it was from